So the news breaks this morning that the Isle of Man's Tesco is no longer going to have Manx meat available for its customers. With me, the CEO here at the Manx meat plant. Obviously, the background to this must be much more interesting than we know at the moment. I mean, you've been fighting to get your product back in there. 6 weeks on, it's out again.
Right, well, we had to prove a point. We had to prove that we could compete with the best in Europe, which we can. We produce stuff to the highest standards. It's very disappointing that we had to come to this decision to suspend trading with Tesco's. But we did say in the beginning that we would do it for a month and see how it went, and then we'd review the costings afterwards. The costs incurred to be a approved supplier to Tesco's are so high that it just doesn't justify the amount of meat that they're purchasing, so it makes it unsustainable. We can't afford to absorb those costs in-house, nor is it fair for us to pass those costs on to other customers. So we've come to this decision because we could not see the growth in sales get up to such a level that would justify the costs.
And yet, let's go back to before the problems you had with Tesco. You were in there, you were having your meat served, and you were obviously finding it the deal was okay at the time then, presumably. What's changed?
No, it wasn't okay. The meat we were supplying in the past was for retail pack. Yes, we were supplying quite a large quantity, but the losses that we were incurring at the time, we couldn't justify it. So we actually stopped doing retail packing when Tesco's delisted us temporarily.
So what's this saying about ShopRite and other people? What makes their standards different to Tesco?
ShopRite are fully committed to selling Manx meat and have been for a good number of years, and so are the independent butchers, and since the horse scandal they're selling a lot more Manx meat, which obviously pleases us. That's what we want to do.
Tesco have been making a big thing about using now meat from the British Isles, let's put it that way. They've made a big advertising campaign. Surely they should be looking to you with delight to say you've got a very short food chain. You know, from where it's come from to where it's going. This must be a massive selling point now, and yet they don't want to play ball with you and come to some better terms?
Well, they could have done. We did ask them if they'd waive the costs and let us be just a local supplier, which I understand they do have in the UK. But it wasn't acceptable. We got to adhere to all these subscriptions and all these extra costs, or we couldn't be a supplier.
Now, Mr. Gordon's been a champion of you. I mean, he's been set up in Timble many times, waiting for the day to get it back into Tesco. Has he got involved? Have you got the government to use their might to help you prize Tesco on this?
The Minister did know that what our intentions were to suspend the sales of meat to them. I haven't spoken to him personally on that, so I don't know what his comment is on that. But I think he would support us in the fact that we couldn't afford to lose this amount of money to supply such a small amount of meat.
Are you expecting a bit of a backlash now? I mean, are you playing a bit of tactics on here that you know by pulling it out of Tesco, which is very emotive for a lot of people because they're seen to be trying to get an extension to their store. They want to be seen as having green credentials and local credentials. Is this a bit of brinkmanship with them? Do you expect them to come back to the table now and capitulate?
I'm not playing any hidden tactics. You know, I'm being perfectly open in what we want to do. We want to sell as much meat on the island as we can. We're investing in quite a lot of marketing. We're doing a marketing campaign at the moment over the next few months with the intention to sell more meat on the island, but not at any cost.
I mean, this horse meat issue has presumably helped you, as you've already kind of alluded to, that people are thinking twice before where they buy their meat and they look more carefully at where it's come from.
I think that is the case on the Isle of Man, and it's the case in the UK, that people are more concerned about what is in their meat, the meat that they buy. But one thing they can be assured, if they buy Manx meat, they're assured of a high, consistent quality which is fully traceable, so that every piece of meat we sell, we can trace back to the group of farmers.
And is this the end of the story, or do you think you will get your meat back into Tesco at some point?
Nothing's set in stone. I honestly don't know what will happen in the future. We've said we will suspend it for the time being, and we'll see what happens.